In this presentation, we're going to take a look at how you set up your email. A lot of people think it's pretty complicated, but you know, in the long run, it's just not that hard. You're going to find that no matter whether you're using a portable phone, a laptop, a desktop, or a tablet device, your email is really going to be handled the same way no matter what. And you're also going to find that most email programs are going to be set up with the same information. You're not going to have to do something different for each device. And if you've got something like a phone or a tablet that you're going to be using on the run, you can have multiple accounts on the same device. This works for your home computer or laptop computer as well. And if you're without a device, if you're on the road and you don't have anything with you, typically you can get to your email just using the internet. So here are the big questions here. What is the protocol that you're going to be using to get your email? There's several different protocols. We're going to talk about that. One of the things that most people seem to forget is that you need a username. Typically it's your full email address, but it may just be the first part of your email address or something different. So it's really important to understand what your username is, and of course, your password. And write it down, put it somewhere safe. This is probably the one thing that most people don't seem to have when I'm trying to help them set up their email. You're also going to need to know some rather odd information. Incoming mail server is one, and of course to go with that you're going to need to know what your outgoing mail server is. And then some email servers have some odd settings to avoid having people use your email account to send spam or to prevent you from getting spam. But let's start with the protocol. This is really just how your email is delivered, and the most common is what they call POP3, and that stands for Post Office Protocol. And like I said, it's arguably the most common. More and more people are going for some other kinds, but you know, this is what the defaults are when you're setting up something like Microsoft Outlook or Windows Live or something like that. And what POP3 does is it takes any email that's sent to your server. When you open up your email program or when you click on send and receive, it takes that information off of the server and pulls it down to your device, whether it's your phone or your tablet or your computer. And at that point, unless you've done something fancy, it deletes the message from your server. What happens with that is, say you get your email on your phone and you read your messages. You get home or get back to the office and you pull up your email and you want to respond to that message you just got from Susan on your phone. Well, guess what? It's probably not going to show up on your home computer because it was downloaded to your phone and deleted. So what do you do to avoid that? Well, again, there are some fancy settings that you can change inside of your email account that will hopefully keep the message on your server, but it's a little sketchy. So another protocol that kind of gets around this is what they call IMAP. Excuse me. IMAP basically stores everything on the server until you get around to deleting it. So that way, if you open up a message on your phone or your tablet and then you get back to the home or office and open up your email program, that message is still sitting in your inbox. It also stores messages in folders so that you can organize your email on your phone, on your tablet, or at the home or office, and you'll see that same folder structure on all your devices. And the biggest thing about this is that it does allow you to use your phone, your tablet, your home PC, your work PC, even the webmail to get access to your email, and you get all of the benefits of folders and content that is only deleted when you choose to delete it. The problem is that not all providers support it. For example, GoDaddy, if you use a basic email account, you can't use IMAP. You have to buy an upgraded email account. And like AOL and Yahoo and some of those, they don't support IMAP at all. So you'll need to find out from your provider if they support IMAP, and if so, does it cost anything extra? Another form of email is what they call Microsoft Exchange. And this is a relatively complex format for delivering email. It's nice because, like IMAP, it stores everything on the server, but there is a lot of administration and setup involved. And of course that means it's mostly large corporations that use it. If you're a mom and pop organization or just one or two employees, it's probably not going to be the thing to do. And if you do, it's going to be set up by an IT department or an IT specialist. You really need to have somebody that's well versed in servers and the Microsoft culture if you want to try to set up Microsoft Exchange. And since it can be complex to configure, that really ends up being expensive. I mean, you do have to pay somebody to do this most times. And last but not least, not all programs support it. There were some problems with BlackBerry supporting Exchange, and some of the email clients that you can download don't necessarily cover Microsoft Exchange. So we talked earlier about some of the things that you need, like an incoming mail server. And your incoming mail server information comes from whoever's providing your email. So, you know, if you've got Comcast, Frontier, or you're using your own domain name, you'll find in the help files what your incoming mail server is, or you can just call them up. Most of them have a quick and easy help button that you can click, and it gives you all this information. Now, if you've got multiple accounts, then you will probably be using different servers for different accounts. It's not a big deal. Each time you set up an account, you have the ability to set up different mail servers, and it makes it fairly straightforward and certainly a whole lot simpler than trying to create a whole new account. Now, outgoing mail server is pretty much the same thing. You get that through your help and from your carrier. On portable devices, it's going to be associated with your email provider. So if you've got a domain name, abc.com, you'll get a mail provider for that. You'll get an outgoing mail server for Comcast. You'll get an outgoing mail server for Gmail. So your individual email provider is going to be the outgoing mail server that you're going to use for your account. Now, on a home or an office computer, it may be dictated by your provider, your internet service provider, or ISP. What happens is that to prevent spam, you're going to have to use their server to send out your email. Comcast has in the past been very good about saying, got to go through Comcast, we're not going to support your byteslaves.com server or whatever. So check with your internet service provider and find out if they will support other outgoing email servers. Another thing that trips people up when they're setting up their accounts is the security settings. Your outbound server typically requires that you log in before you can send mail. This is a spam protection thing. Otherwise, somebody can just simply say, hey, I'm Sven Mogulgard, and I'm going to send out email using his server, sven@byteslaves.com. But by requiring my username and my password, then going to really cut down on the spam unless somebody's hacked my account. There's also what they call secure socket layer. It's a little more complex, but it's another level of security that you can put on your email so that people can't read email in transit. It's not a big problem, but if you're in any kind of work that requires sending sensitive information back and forth, you're going to want to check with your email provider about adding SSL or some other kind of security on top of the basic passwords. And again, it's one of those things where you have to check your help file or call your email provider, because each and every email provider has a little bit different take on how to implement that security. Now here's where it really gets hard, because again, trying to thwart spam coming and going, your email provider is going to require that email go through certain ports. Kind of think like the old days with the patch cords that the operators used to use. And a port is just basically how your computer talks to your email server. So you have to know which port is which and what your ISP or email provider is going to require. And that's because, again, they just changed the standard ports, which your Microsoft Excel or Exchange, I mean not Excel, but your Microsoft Outlook or Exchange or Thunderbird, whatever email program you're using is going to throw in a default, but you may have to change that. So let's take a look at some actual setup here. This is just a dummy account that I set up through Microsoft Outlook, and you'll notice that there is the name, the email address, put in the account type, and I just simply Googled my GoDaddy account, and it threw out these settings for my POP3 account. You're going to have different settings probably for your incoming mail server and outgoing mail server, depending on the domain name that you've got. And if you're using IMAP, you'll definitely have a different incoming mail server. As I said earlier, you need to know your username and password, otherwise you're going to have a hard time getting your mail, and that's really the basics. When you set up your account in Outlook, at this point you can test your account settings. May or may not work. I really suggest that you go ahead and click on More Settings, and you'll be able to tweak your information before you save it. When you get into the More Settings, you'll see the General tab. That doesn't really give you much information, but the outgoing server, as I said earlier, most require you to log in, and that login is typically your existing username and password. So if you just click that box and say use the same settings, 99 out of 100 times you're going to be in good shape. The other one, we talked about ports. Here under advanced settings, the typical incoming POP3 port is 110. If you're doing IMAP, it's 143, and your outgoing server by default is 25, but some carriers use port 80, some use port 537. If you're using any kind of security, it can change all over the place. So again, you're going to need to check and make sure you know what these settings are before you get into setting up your email. So the next question, of course, is where do you find all this info? You can certainly ask your provider and click on help, whether it's Frontier or Verizon or Comcast, whoever it is that you're using. Most times if you search their frequently asked questions or search their help, they'll have a quick thing that says if you're setting up Outlook, here's your settings. If you're setting up Thunderbird, if you're doing webmail, whatever. The other thing you can do, of course, is just simply Google settings for Verizon, settings for Comcast, and it'll give you the information. I hope you enjoyed this little 15-minute update on how to get your email set up. But if you do have other questions, or if you want to find us and talk to us about your individual needs for email, check out the website at byteslaves.com, or go to our Facebook fan page at facebook.com/byteslavescomputing. And either way, if you go to the website or the Facebook fan page, you can join our mailing list, find out about webinars, workshops, seminars, other speaking gigs,